microphone and express their opinion. Each side will have a total of 10 minutes to speak. Development plans require a public hearing. However, no action will be taken by the Planning Commission members. Plats, rezonings, revised master plans, and street renamings require a public hearing, and once the public hearing is completed, Planning Commission members will deliberate and render their decision. Planning Commission members with a personal or financial interest in any petitioner's request are required to recuse themselves. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the members of the Planning Commission. Mr. Buddy Hardwick, Vice Chairman, Ms. Ann Clemens, Mr. Frank Cook, Mr. Jerome Moore, Mr. Patrick Moss, James Reed, and yours truly, Kippy Tate, your chairman tonight. We have with us from the Planning Control staff side, we have Helen Milligan, we have Tanya Ingram, and Mr. Robert Smith. Members and petitioners are requested to please speak directly into the microphone. The minutes are recorded for legal purposes, and this is the only way to accurately pick up the audio. We have 7 members with us tonight. It takes 5 votes to pass a motion. Because of the number of members here tonight, if you would like to delay your request, please let us know when your request is announced. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight?
No changes.
We would like to get the minutes into the record. Can we have a motion on the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor? No opposers. Motion passes. Helen, would you read the first item on the agenda, please?
First item is presented by Buddy Webb, public hearing for development plan for a new building to be located on the west side of Mobile Highway, approximately 200 feet south of Burnsdale Drive in the M1 district and an R75M district.
Okay.
For O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Is there a representative here? O'Reilly, thank you. Please give us your name, ma'am. Hold on a second. Yeah, we're going to turn your microphone on. Thank you.
Oh, messed it all up.
Let's try it again.
Leslie Guillot.
Very good. Please present your item, Leslie.
All right. Yes, we are proposing a new O'Reilly Auto Parts store. It's in a currently vacant lot next to the CVS. It's approximately 7,500 square foot building, masonry construction. To my knowledge, I believe we're meeting all zoning requirements for that area. We've been working with staff and have addressed all of their issues and comments, I think, up to this point. So I think we feel like we've got a good plan put together, that it will be a good addition to that area. So we'll go ahead and open it up if anybody has any questions for me on it.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Any members of the commission have any questions or comments for the petitioner? Seeing none, are there any members of the audience who wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, this is a development plan which does not require a vote, so we'll declare a public hearing has been held. Thank you very much.
That's it. Okay. Thank you.
The next item is presented by Glenn Tanner, Land Surveying, request final approval of Goldston Plat Number 1, located on the west side of Lower Wetumpka Road, approximately 270 feet north of Cook Avenue in the M1 district.
My name is Glenn Tanner. I'm asking for final approval for Goldston Plat Number 1.
Repeat that again, sir. I don't know if I didn't hear you.
My name is Glenn Tanner.
Okay, Glenn.
I'm asking for final approval for Goldston Plat Number 1.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Members of the commission, do you have any questions or comments for Glenn? Seeing none, are there any members of the audience who wish to speak for or against this item? Please come forward. Ma'am, you have to come up and speak us to us in the microphone. Hey, ma'am.
You gotta come up.
You're going to have to come up here to the microphone and talk to us. And anybody else who wishes to speak for or against this item, you might come on up and talk to us. Please give us your name.
My name is Jean Burke.
Good afternoon, Ms. Burke.
Good afternoon. We can't hear very well back there. I'd like to know what is the proposal for that property on the Lower Wetumpka Road, exactly what he said, because we weren't able to hear it.
Okay, but Mr. Glenn, why don't you come back up and give a little bit more explanation about what your intentions are, please?
Mr. Golson plans on building him a house there on the property once it's platted, and he's just waiting to get it platted.
Is that explanation satisfactory, ma'am?
So this is being rezoned as residential. This is our main concern. It's now, I think, zoned as light industrial.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
the property is not being rezoned, it's being platted because the property was never platted. He previously had a home there, and once you establish a home, you can continue to have a home. So he is allowed to rebuild a home in an M1 district without rezoning it. But he did have to plat the
You
property.
had to plat it, okay. Are you satisfied now, ma'am, with the
So are you
rezoning
saying
issue?
then that it can never be
You're gonna have to
light
talk into the
industrial again?
microphone.
I beg your pardon?
Microphone, please.
So then the property or the plat can never then be rezoned as light industrial, which is what it is now. It has to always remain as it is now and not be rezoned for residential?
He's not asking for rezoning.
But can it be?
If he wants to ask for it and go through the procedure, that takes approximately 3.5 months. But he is allowed to build a home as it is now,
Okay.
once he has a legal map of the property.
Okay, so no business can come into that area then? that
If he
particular
builds a
place?
home, he could not have a business there with
Okay,
it.
thank you. It satisfies my curiosity.
Very good, thank you so much.
My name is Zenobia Hooks, and you know, that was our main concern because we had heard so many rumors about different things that were going to go there.
Right.
Because where this property is located is a very small neighborhood, and we already have, you know, like a couple of industry there where, you know, the traffic is extremely bad because, you know, we have traffic come from Wetumpka and all those other places because it's connected to that river parkway. That's all we wanted was to get a good understanding as to what was going to be on that property.
Very good. Well, hopefully that's why we have these meetings, so that you will get an understanding. And as Glenn has said, a house is going there. They're just replatting it right
Right,
now.
that's all we wanted to know because like there were so many rumors flying around,
That's
you
right.
know, about.
Understand.
Okay,
Understand.
thank you.
Very good. Any other members of the audience who wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, this is a voting item, so we'll need a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you,
Thank you
Glenn.
very much. Have a good evening.
Next item is presented by Hayden Surveying. Request final approval of Moody Plat Number 1 located on the west side of Lockwood Lane at Gunster Place in a PUD district.
Let us have your name, please.
Good evening. My name is Mitchell Hayden, and I'm representing Mr. Moody. And he owns 2 lots in Lockwood subdivision, and he's wanting to plat those 2 lots into one for the purpose of putting his house in the middle of it. They're small lots, and he wants to incorporate them into a larger lot where he can have a finer home in the area.
Okay. Thank you, Mitchell. Any questions or comments from the commission?
I'm going to recuse myself on this one.
Okay, let the record reflect that Buddy has recused himself on this item. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item, please come forward. Seeing none, the motion is in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? And 1 recusal. Your motion passes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Next item is presented by Hugh Caldwell. Public hearing for development plan for a new building to be located on the west side of Ohio Farrell Road, approximately 7,000 feet north of the Atlanta Highway in the M3 district.
Let's have your name, please.
Hugh Caldwell.
Okay, Hugh, please present your item, sir.
Well, it's a building that's being presented on a industrial lot on Ohio Fair Road. It's just not been presented before, just recently come under new guidelines within the city jurisdiction, so it's just the beginning of the project that will turn into a 60 by 60 metal warehouse just for storage and so forth. Mr. Parker.
Okay. Members of the commission, any questions or comments for Hugh? I do have one question, Hugh. 3,600 square foot building. How many parking spaces?
I believe the drawing Steve Martin did showed 5 that are paved, and the rest is a gravel area. It is still under the, the plans themselves. I mean, that's the site work, but the plans themselves are still under, being worked on.
Okay, and does all that work out, Helen, zoning wise?
They're required 1/2 per employee and 1 for company vehicle.
All right, well, if Helen says it, you're in good shape, buddy.
Okay.
Any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Well, this is a development plan which requires no vote of the commission, so we'll declare a public hearing has been held. Thank you very much.
I think
Good luck with your project.
I think you're gonna call me next too.
The next item is by Steve Martin, request final approval of Jason Parker Warehouse, plat number 1, located on the west side of Ohio Farrell Road, approximately 7,000 feet north of the Atlanta Highway in the M3 district.
Well, you know the drill.
Yeah, it's Steve Martin Engineering is doing all the work on the project, and they've asked me to represent Mr. Parker tonight, but this again has just recently fallen under new jurisdiction. It had not previously been platted, so we've got to plat it before we can do the building on it, of course.
Okay, members of the commission, any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item is presented by Marshall Design Build. Public hearing for development plan for an addition to a building located at 2575 Container Drive in the M1 district.
Let's have your name, please.
Good afternoon, David Slocum with Pinnacle Design Group. This is a fairly simple project. We're expanding existing facility with additional warehouse space. The building pad is already in place and was planned for future expansion, and we're going to be building on that existing building pad. We've received comments from the staff and worked with them and feel like we've met those requirements, and
Okay.
be glad to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, sir. Members of the commission, any comments, questions? Seeing none, any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? This is a development plan item, so we won't take a vote tonight. So we'll declare a public hearing has been held. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is professional engineering consultants public hearing for development plan for a new building to be located at 3731 Malcolm Drive in the PUD district.
We know who you are, but tell us your name anyway for the record.
My name is Pat Mosley with Engineering Consultants, and we're presenting this request for a new kids' world, which is a recreational facility for groups of children on events like birthdays and stuff like that.
Thank you, Pat. Any members of the commission, questions, comments?
Is that something like Chuck E. Cheese? Maybe.
I think so. I have seen the floor plan. It's got a bunch of playrooms in it for children to have parties.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Seeing none, any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? This is a development plan, requires no vote of the commission. We'll declare a public hearing has been held. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
The next item is presented by Pilgreen Engineering. This is to request an approval of a revised master plan for property located between Bong Road and Wisdomwood Road at the north end of Melbourne Circle and the east end of Melbourne Circle in a PUD district. This is a master plan which will require your approval.
Thank you, Pep. We know who you are, but for the record, please state your name, sir.
I'm Pep Pilgreen with Pilgreen Engineering. This is the Melrose subdivision that we did many years ago, and we pretty much kept everything the same. We took out one road to make it a little easier to build and save them a little money, but we ended up with the same amount of lots. The perimeter, around the perimeter of the site looks just like it did before. It's the little curvy line there in the middle. We changed that and made that whole thing a park instead of having some odd shaped lots. These are more rectangular and a little easier to construct. So we're not really changing a whole lot from what was originally approved.
Thank you, sir. Members of the commission, any questions or comments for Pep? Members of the audience, which speak for or against this item, please come forward. I see 1, 2, 3 folks so far, so we'll be happy to hear what you have to say. Give us your name, please, sir.
Evening, my name is Dennis Leatherwood. I live on Wisdomwood Road. I have my wife and my neighbor with me. And I know you have another item coming up after this. I don't know if they're combined. But our concerns are that we ensure that the integrity of Wisdomwood Road is kept as it is. If you know, Deer Creek development is in front of our homes, going down to 6 homes on Wisdomwood Road, and there is when they built that, they put a berm, a 6-foot fence, and bushes along Wisdomwood Road, and that has been there for the last 20 or so years since Deer Creek. There's nothing, we don't know what the plans are. Maybe it's not this time to address it, but we would like to have something similar along those 3 lots that border Wisdomwood Road. When you drive down Wisdomwood Road, that we don't look in the backyards of those houses to see their trash cans and whatever they have in their backyards. So we don't know. Maybe Pip can tell us if they have that included, or if it's the time for they include that. But that's what we're concerned about. It is time
to talk about it. Yeah.
Okay.
I got one more question.
Well, let's do this. Pep, if you'll make notes of the comments, then we'll circle back to you once we hear everybody's comments. So we hear you, Dennis. Yes, sir, your turn.
Okay, I'm Bert Molina, and I live on the end of Wisdomwood Road. And my concerns is the development that's going in at present time. Their construction trucks use our road, and they have torn it up. Right now there's gravel portions of it that have been, and they use that bottom entrance there as a construction entrance. What I don't understand, they have all those beautiful roads in their development, but they don't use those roads at all. But they'll come down our road and tear it up, and away they go with all these trucks. Now, I don't know if anything can be done about that or not, but it is a concern with us, and I just want to bring that up.
When you say your road, what street?
I live on Wisdomwood Road.
Okay, this is a public street, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure.
Yes.
I was kind of nodding to Robert over there if he wanted to throw in that same comment.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
They go down Wisdomwood and turn and drive across all that land to get to.
They go right down to Wisdomwood, and you see that portion of your new development there? That's where your sign says construction entrance. And they go right in there and they turn and they just eat up that road, our entrance.
Yeah, especially where they turn.
Well, here's where we're going to jump in here, if you guys don't mind, because if it's a city street, city road, or whatever, Bert, I think your comment would probably be better suited if you talk to Mr. Robert over here, because that's something that needs to be made aware, they need to be made aware of that.
It is a county road.
It's a
county road.
That's a county road.
It's a county road.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the comments would probably go to the county
The comments
about,
need, yeah. But you have a good issue, but I don't think this is the form that's gonna solve your problem, Bert.
I really know if the developer,
Well,
this
I
gentleman
think
here.
obviously,
He's aware of it. I think that
I'm
maybe
aware
Beth
of it,
could talk
but,
to
you
him.
know, they're gonna have to fix it. They can't, you know, I know George Speak at the county, he's not gonna allow us to tear the road up and for it to go. I was not aware that they went from there, but I will address that with the home builder.
Okay.
Let him know.
Now, you're aware of it, and
I
these
know,
folks
but
are concerned
I
about
will,
it, so let's make
and
sure.
I would anticipate that they're gonna need to repair the road.
Very good. Thank you so much. Dennis, we had forgot about you, buddy. All right. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Joe Colvin. I'm one of the existing homeowners out there in Melrose. My concern is there were never any meetings via the bylaws, the covenants, and restrictions, and nothing was ever given to any of the homeowners out there prior to the development starting. We received something in the mail roughly a month afterwards that is completely different from the bylaws and building codes, building specifications that the prior homeowners had to abide by. And my main concern is the integrity of value via comps that the existing owners are going to, the prior owners are going to have to deal with.
Okay. Okay. Hang on just a second, Pep, if you don't mind. Joe, we hear you. Don't go anywhere. Ma'am, you're with Bert, right?
She's my wife.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. We don't want to sell off. Okay, so we've heard everybody. I think, Bert, we've taken care of your item.
Yes, sir.
Now, Pep, would you address the two concerns that Dennis has and that Joe has? Bert's concern is
As
about
far
the
as
berm
the-
and consistency.
I understand the comment about the 3 lots that back up. How wide of berm did you say they had?
Well, the current one with Deer Creek is a
Come up.
4-foot berm.
Dennis, you're going to have to come a little
6-foot
closer. Hey, Dennis?
Okay.
Yeah, you're going to have to come to the microphone. Yes.
The current berm across the street with Deer Creek is, I believe, a 4-foot berm with a 6-foot fence, and it's Iliagnus is what's planted along that road. And now, let me also mention, because he brought up the homeowners association, we have had issues, I would say, with Deer Creek because the bushes and the berm and the fence became the property owner's responsibility and not the homeowners association. And so therefore we have had issues where the homeowners have actually cut those bushes down and put holes in the fences with gates, and we continue to work that. So if it's possible, when you do put something there, whatever we negotiate with, that it be the responsibility of the homeowners association to maintain that. I'd appreciate that.
I don't think that we can get the homeowners to do that. The subdivision I live in, that's the way most of the stuff around the perimeter is done. And I don't see any problem with us building a berm and putting a fence on it to be comparable to what's behind it and to let the homeowners association be responsible for it. I think the owner or developer would be more than happy.
Okay, so Bert, are you satisfied?
Yeah, we can do that. That's okay. That's
Okay.
the least of our worries.
All right, Joe, your turn.
So it's not in the plans right now? It's not? I
Well,
know you did a master plan, but...
Well, the truth is we hadn't drawn the real construction plans for that, so it won't be any big deal to add it. I think that's okay. I think that's
Well,
fine.
Bert, his testimony is binding down here. That's why we want y'all to speak into the microphone. So if he's committing to it, then that's kind of like what he's got to abide by. Okay? All right, Joe, won't you come back up here, please, sir? Pep, did you hear Mr. Joe Colvin's concern about no meetings and according to some ordinance or whatever you guys have out there that they weren't properly notified? How do you respond to that?
I hate to say, but I don't know anything about the homeowners association. I know they have one, and I know who owns it or who's the member of it. You know, and as far as I know, that was all worked out before they bought the land from Mr. Level. And as far as changing that, I don't know. I was just told that we wanted to change the layout a little to make it a little more efficient. I don't know anything about proper notice and that sort of stuff.
What about Robert? The notices and all that went out, did they go out the way they supposed to?
Mr. Chairman, I can speak to that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We put the signs out and we did the certified mail, and we had development plan signs and plat signs to adjoining property owners. Development plans don't require letters, plats do.
I got you, okay.
Well, I don't think what he's addressing is that issue. He's addressing the homeowners thing, which y'all wouldn't really be involved in.
We don't have anything to do with homeowners.
Well, yeah, that's what, I'm just trying to make sure all of the notices are given first. Then if there's anything outside of that, then that might be another issue.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you not have to do a recorded amendment when bylaws are transferred over to another entity? And that is supposed to be sent or reviewed by the association, which is supposed to have a board with the homeowners on that board.
Joe, here again, this is the planning commission, and we don't get into the homeowner association's business to the extent that you're bringing to light tonight. If something's been violated within that homeowners association's rules and bylaws and so forth, I'm sure there's somewhere else in there that tells you how to deal with it.
Okay.
And I think that may have to be the route you go if that in fact has happened. But we don't get into that up here. Pep, you get the last word?
I think, I understand what his question is, and I'll pass that on to my client. But I'm like you, I don't know anything about it.
I got you. Okay, any other questions, comments, issues from the audience?
One question on the park that you guys have, Pep. Is that going to be part of the new HOA dues, I guess, the maintenance of that park?
Yes, maintenance of it is part of the HOA.
Okay, and that'll be joined up with the other existing part of the neighborhood, or is that a separate HOA?
No, it'll be all part of the residential neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Good one there, Jerome. Any other questions? Seeing none, the motion's in order. This is the master plan.
Yes, master.
Yeah.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes. Motion passes. Thank you.
Next item is presented by Pilgreen Engineering. Request approval of a revised preliminary plat of Melrose subdivision.
I'm Pep Pilgreen again. This is just the preliminary plat that was shown before. Once this preliminary plat is then approved, then we can go for final plat approval when we want to construct something.
Very good. Members of the commission, any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, you're going to get your turn. You're going to get your turn. Come on up.
Dennis Leatherwood, just one question. So that berm and fence, et cetera, would that not be on that document?
This is a plat.
It'll be on the final plat. It won't be on the preliminary. The preliminary is more of a schematic design showing where the road is, where the lots are certain dimensions, but the final details of that, I mean, there will be sanitary sewer, water easements, a lot of things that are on the final plat that don't show, but the construction drawings need to be completed before that'll be shown.
Okay, so the final plat will come before this body again?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Joe, did you have an issue? Okay. Any other members of the audience to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, the motion is in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. No opposers, motion passes.
Thank you.
The next item is presented by Brian Baker, public hearing for an extension of time for a billboard to be located at 145 Gibbons Drive in the B2Q district.
Good evening. My name is Neil Bell. I'm with New South Media Group. I'm actually representing the landowner BFHK in this matter. There's currently an approval for a billboard on this site, and we're requesting an extension. It's a typical 6-month approval, and we're asked for extension because we've had delay in getting the state permit. And I think I had submitted a letter from the DOT explaining that there was extenuating circumstances and they could not issue just yet. And I think that's because there's another permit that is being appealed within 500 feet of where this one would go.
Okay, any questions or comments from the commission? I do have one for you.
Yep.
So we didn't get through the first 6 months. Are you requesting another 6 months?
Yes, the sign cannot be built without a DOT permit because it's on a DOT road.
I mean, I understand that.
Right.
That aspect I do understand. I'm just wondering now that you have another 6 months, have all your issues been cleared up?
I hope that
and we don't
they will,
anticipate you coming back again for another extension is what I'm
No,
asking.
no, we would not come back for another extension.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I want to clarify that. The state has not cleared up everything yet, so he hopes he doesn't come back.
Right.
We can't clear up everything until the state clears up everything, but they wanted to go ahead and file for the extension within the proper time limit.
Okay, well, let me just ask the question this way. How much time are you requesting for the extension?
6 months.
Well, the guidelines allow him 6 months. So.
Here again, I was just trying to get clear what the extension, define the extension is what I'm asking. And we're talking about 6 months, so if you didn't get it done in 6 months, then I guess.
I think we're talking about another 6 months.
Okay, that's all I wanted to get clear.
Okay.
I'm clear now. Any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Motion is not necessary.
Why isn't it necessary?
It's a public hearing.
Where does it say development plan on it?
It's 10. Sorry.
But so does the others.
Okay. All right. Well, you're free to go.
Okay.
Okay. I think the next item is his. It's presented by New South Media Group. Public hearing for development plan for a new junior billboard to be located on Chantilly Parkway.
Yeah, this is just a new development, new site, new billboard site, meeting all the regulations for a junior board.
What, buddy, go ahead.
This is another 6 months.
No, this is a brand new request.
For 6 months.
Yes.
That's
Right.
what I'm asking.
Right.
6 months, yes,
Yeah.
okay.
A new location, but 6 months on
Right.
that location.
Right.
Right. Any other questions or comments?
Educate me a little bit. What's the difference in a junior billboard and what
Yeah,
do they
the-
call
the-
a senior billboard?
Right. The city of Montgomery designates two different types of billboards. One is junior and one is regular billboard. The junior is under 150 square feet, and the spacing between that sign and other signs is less. So you can be 500 feet from another sign if you're doing a junior. It'd be 1,500 feet if you're doing one of the larger ones.
So what kind of stuff goes on a junior billboard?
Same thing. It's just a smaller, different
Smaller
advertisers.
text?
Yeah, just smaller square footage.
I got you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the commission? Any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Well, seeing none, a public hearing has been held, and good luck with your project.
Next item is presented by Flowers and White. Request approval of a revised master plan for one lot located on the northeast corner of Winwood Place and Lake Woods Drive. This will require a motion.
Okay, go KJ.
How about Kippy? Yeah, this is simply just one lot in the Wind Lake subdivision on the corner of Winford and Lake Ridge Drive. Again, as Ms. Helen said, we're requesting a revised PUD to change the front building line and the rear building line. And then the legal front of this property is the Lake Ridge Drive, and my client wants to face the house this way. So that's the reasoning for the request.
That was my question, where's the front? Any questions from the commission? Comments? Any questions from the audience who wish to speak for or against this item?
Somebody back
Okay. Come forward, please. Would you, ma'am, did you have a question or a comment? We didn't hear you, so oh, you're blocking the view. In other words, she wants you to move, KJ. Are you satisfied now, ma'am?
Yes, I just thought it showed something different than what was on the screen.
All right, any other questions from the audience? Seeing none, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and proper second. All in favor, raise your hand. Patrick, you good?
I'm good.
All right, unanimous. Motion passes. Thank you.
Next item is presented by Flowers in White. Request final approval of Wind Lakes Phase 2, plat number 7A, located on the northeast corner of Winford Place and Lake Ridge Drive.
All right, KJ.
Again, Kenneth White with Flowers Are Right, representing Philip Pouncey. This plat simply replats this lot with the previously approved building lines that y'all just specified in the front.
All right, any questions from the commission? Comments? Any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Is that lady back there? No, okay. Seeing none, the motion's in order.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand.
Thank you.
Motion's approved. Thank you. Next item.
Next item is presented by ECE Surveying. Request to rezone 3 lots located on the southwest corner of Ann Street and Plum Street from R60S to B3.
Give us your name, Guthrie.
My name's Guthrie Jeffcoat, and I'm actually of Jeffcoat Engineers and Surveyors, but I'm filling in for my good friend Darrell Hyde today because he's not feeling very well. So he asked me to try to answer any questions you had concerning this 150-foot square area with 3 lots at the southwest corner of Plum and Ann. And as far as the usage, I know y'all are interested in that. It's not totally determined right now. There's negotiations going underway to sell this property to for a quick serve restaurant. As you know, there's several along there now, and for to develop a communications outlet, retail outlet for communications. So negotiations still underway, but the market has called for this, as you know, to be changed, and we have that request before you now.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments for Mr. Jeffrey Guthrie?
Jeffrey, is it just the 2 buildings, the 2 spaces in one building? Is that what it is?
What, the proposed or existing?
No, the proposed.
Proposed is two buildings joined together there.
Yeah.
The question that I have, Guthrie, is there are several queues around this property. Actually, there's a queue on the property, the B3 adjacent to the proposed project that you're presenting tonight. What are those queues, Helen? There's one across the street. What are those queues? There's a B2 queue up in the north portion of the site, and then there's a B3 queue south of that.
A lot of it has to do with they don't want any service stations, no auto repair, no retail sales of autos, no travel trailer parks, no hotels, motels, no billboards, no classes of E, F, and G, which are travel trailer parks. And they were trying to restrict in monument signs. They placed pretty much the same restrictions on all the property fronting Ann Street.
Okay.
No
Were you-
coal yards, no industrial.
So were you aware of that, Guthrie?
We are. In fact, Helen was a great deal of help in trying to figure which way to go on this and trying to conform to the previous wishes of the council over the last several years.
Yeah, so as we move forward, I'm assuming that this request is going to comply with the same cues that Helen just read to us, and we won't have any other issues outside of those cues.
If the planning commission so sees fit. Now, there is one parcel that had more, and I think that was the Hardys, and that's because the council was trying to save some trees and control the sidewalks, but engineering should be controlling the sidewalks.
I just wanted to be consistent. Our interest will make sure it is consistent with everything along that little
I
corridor.
think being consistent would be the cues that were put on the Popeyes property. Could be copied.
The cue that was put on the Popeyes.
Which was on the northwest corner of Locust.
I mean, I know where the Popeyes is. So is that cue different than the cue you read to us?
It's the same as the ones I just read you.
Okay, that's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They all have that one. Hardy's just had a few more.
And we're putting the cue on the Hardys, which is a lot more restrictive than the other ones.
Right.
And I'm trying to get a feel for what's the difference.
Hardy's was trying to preserve some trees. And also one that I did not read to you that's on all of them is to make sure their dumpsters enclosed, no outside pay telephones, a bicycle rack,
Okay.
screening and vegetation along the residential to be determined by the urban forester, outside lighting to be strictly on the parking lot, not in the residential area. No loud music after 9 p.m.
Okay. I just wanted to get that clear, so Guthrie, you and your client understands where we're going with this, right?
Yes.
That we're about to lock it in like the Hardys is locked in.
Absolutely.
Okay. Members of the commission, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah. The only difference was in the two was the Hardys is the had to do with some trees and some landscaping difference.
And also a monument sign, and they wanted the front of the building to look historic material.
All right, but that was the extra parts.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't remember how it was negotiated, but is there a reason to add those different from what some of the others already are? Well, that's the only one. That's the oddity. That's the odd one. Is the Hardy?
That's the unique one.
Is it? I'm trying to understand why
I don't think
would
some
we
of those
add?
on Hardy's were necessary. I think what was on the other two properties pretty well cover everything. I think the monument sign is important to maintain along Ann Street. They've pretty much done that. And if you don't call for it, then you don't know what you're going to get.
So you're suggesting a third criteria, but leaving out the landscaping part of it, saving the trees part of it. Is that what I'm hearing you suggest?
I'm not familiar if there are any trees on that property, but if there are, they're certainly going to need to try to save them. The urban forester always wants that.
Yeah, of course he does.
So.
The intent that I think that we want to express to you, Guthrie, and to the public is the consistency that's been established along that corridor. And good question, buddy, in terms of what are all the qualifications, and are we going to stay with that consistency that's already established? Or looks like the Hardys was more restricted than the other parcels. That's what it
and
seems
that's where
like to
I'm
me.
going. I'm trying to understand what I know we're in conversation about it, but I think Helen made a good point. I think the monument wasn't in the others, and your feeling was that the monument needed to be part of it. So we're really talking about making a third group.
The monument sign was one of the main ones. Would you like for us to pass this so y'all can look at it?
Was of all of them the monument one? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the monument was consistent with all
So
it's on all of them.
Okay. All right.
So the only difference between the Hardys and the rest of them are the trees.
Trees, making the building look historic, picking out paint colors.
Yeah. So we, okay.
I got you.
All right,
Okay.
all right.
Does everybody understand where we are on the commission? Very, very good. Are there any members of the audience who wish to speak to this item? Ma'am, please come forward. You've been very patient. Give us your name, please.
My name is Jean McDonald. I live at 2800 Plum Street on the far back corner from Popeyes. I own that house. It's mine. I've lived there for nearly 20 years. Most of the qualification things that you all were discussing were due to the particulars of the former neighborhood association that used to exist in this area. It no longer exists. We are attempting to start another one. The first meeting is not scheduled until November the 16th. There are a number of people, myself included, who have gotten on this next door thing on the internet to discuss and get this together, because the last time, the only thing the members at that time of the Planning Commission wanted to listen to was the neighborhood association. We do not have one now. I think this needs to be postponed until we can get together, because people are saying, oh, those houses are so derelict. Yes, most of the neighborhood is that way. There are probably 15 empty houses, maybe half of which are boarded up. There are continually piles of trash on Plum Street and weeds. When I call the city to complain to get those fixed, the landlords that own the properties take weeks to get it done. And the empty lot behind me, where there was a house owned by, I believe, Mr. Manley, they got burned down by the tenants on the front end using spray cans and lighters. And it took 3 months for them to tear that down, because every time I called, they said, oh yeah, we sent them a notice, but they kept having the wrong address. 2 minutes on Google, you can find out where 817 Longview is. I just would like enough time to get the neighborhood association back together before I'm subjected to listening to more dumpsters, more boom boom music rattling my entire house after 9 p.m. The dumpster emptied, let's see, last night at 4:25 a.m., 10 minutes earlier than it usually is. You can hear it and almost feel it from my property. There is no reason for this development. We could have gotten bought out 2 years ago, except for Mr. Manley and Mr. Guthrie one of them decided they wanted more money, and the other one decided they wanted half the mineral rights. I kid you not. Red clay is not worth that much. The neighborhood has deteriorated so far from that point. I called the We Buy Ugly Houses people. They wouldn't even make me an offer, because the only thing that's sold in the last year has been dilapidated houses like theirs that sold for $8,000 or $10,000. The land value is more than that. I just want a postponement until we can get a neighborhood association together to discuss this. It's the only fair thing to do. It's the only thing that you all would listen to and City Council would listen to before. And I agree we should have some consistency. And I don't mean about keeping trees and historic looks to buildings. Thank you.
You're welcome. Gene, I want to just say one thing to you, and I do feel your passion. If I understand correctly what I just heard, seems like a lot of what you're talking about has really nothing to do with the development. I could be wrong, but boom, boom, and 9:30 at night, I don't know if that happens on this site or not. I'm not there, I don't know.
It happens every night.
But is it?
Every night
Okay.
I hear music late.
I'll
And
just-
the city could make a mint. The city could make a mint writing tickets for noise.
That's right.
Because it's that bad. 3 times I got up from the couch in a half hour last night to try and see what kind of car it was driving through. They cut back through from Popeyes over there.
And that's
There is concern with traffic and all that. These other ladies would like to speak about that, so I'll not steal their thunder. But it's just not smart development. You're letting anybody, they say, well, we don't really even know what wants to go there yet. I've heard rumors from the AT&T moving from across the street over there. Why on earth would they do that? If they want to downsize, then there's 2 empty retail spaces in with a Walmart. There's more on down Zelda Road. We don't need more fast food there. There's everything in the world down Zelda Road. I can walk there. If there were sidewalks, that's the other thing. They keep talking about, oh, we need to maintain sidewalks. There are no sidewalks on that end of Plum Street. You have to go 4 blocks before there's any, and there's none on Cherry Street. There's none in most of the neighborhood. I've walked most of it myself.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Name, please.
Sandra O'Callahan. And my question is to the developer as to what they can work with the city to address traffic. There's a light at Hardee's and there's a light at Highland Park in the Salvation Army. And where they're talking about the development, there's not a whole lot of room for sort of stop and go traffic. So I guess our concerns are traffic and what we're going to do to address those issues on Ann Street.
Okay, Guthrie, do you have a response regarding the traffic and their concern about the traffic and what's being considered there?
Yeah, not in detail because the development plan's being worked out now, but they are using some modern day items such as right in, right out, and no left turns off of Ann Street, and red lights at the right places. So those are being brought about with working with the traffic engineers on each one of these projects. But I can't give you details because I don't have a development plan in front of me.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Question. I'd like to do, Helen, I thought that there are not many folks on this commission that were here when the last time came up, when the Hardys and the Popeyes and so forth came, but we seemed to, I thought at that time we passed some pretty strict noise ordinances about that. Did not that come up at that time?
Not to my knowledge, that we don't have any zoning that controls noise ordinances.
Well, I thought
That would have to be a city code. We don't have anything to do with that.
I understand that, but I thought that all came up, and I thought that part of the decision with, now which one it was, I don't know, was that the ordinances were that they were going to abide by the city ordinances. I guess that's what I'm saying. Okay.
I'm not familiar with
maybe
that.
I just don't remember it properly, but I remember the whole neighborhood association coming and have a big, as she said, have a big objection to this. They were objecting to the setbacks and all of that at that time.
Well, it's just like the issue that's put in here that no loud music after 9 p.m.
Yeah.
is part of this. That's all we can put in there, and council has to, if they
If I may
approve it,
say,
update.
that's the business playing the music. That's not controlling what the neighborhood, but the business does control when their dumpster is emptied. That needs to be addressed.
Okay, very good. I think we had one other person. Come forward, please, ma'am.
I'm Helen Harris. I live in Capitol Heights adjacent to Holland Park, and I'm very concerned about the increasing commercial development on the edge of Holland Park. I believe it's had a detrimental effect on the homes, especially to the west or behind those businesses. And I would hope that any additional buildings that are commercial would have to address the problems of overall neighborhood aesthetics. Obviously, commercial development there is harming the residential value, if not the property value, of an older neighborhood. I think Holland Park was established in 1908, and it's struggling to maintain itself as a safe neighborhood anyway without these businesses on Ann Street. And the increasing, I think it has increased the neighborhood blight in the neighborhood by having those businesses established on Ann Street. The problems include the noise. With businesses, you have more noise in the parking lots directly behind homes where families live. The dumpsters, as she stated before, there's really no way to quieten that with just a wooden fence or a chain link fence that has the green plastic in it. You need some kind of sound barrier behind those buildings and any homes that may be impacted. You have constant traffic until the business closes, and there's not enough traffic control. You have children and teenagers who are on those streets without sidewalks. You have impatient customers at these buildings who are entering and exiting as though it's a commercial area without thought to the fact that there are also families walking between Walmart and crossing Ann Street and walking to their homes within Holland Park. As she mentioned before, there's not traffic control. It's really gotten to the point where you need a traffic light at every block because of the disregard for traffic laws and the disregard for pedestrians in that area. And a lot of the neighbors in Holland Park are pedestrians as they go to the shopping center across the way or as they use these businesses along Ann Street. It's putting them and their children at danger. I don't know what can be done about the smells, but I think if you all just paused for a minute and imagined that there was a restaurant with strong cooking oil right behind your home, and there's only a little wooden fence, you know, how would you feel every time you go out your back door when you're having to smell these smells? You know, a lot of us are fortunate enough to live in neighborhoods where that's not going to happen, but the people in Highland Park deserve the same consideration that we want for our own homes. Again, the neighborhood aesthetics. How would you feel if every time you walked in your backyard you see the dumpster and at night the constant traffic lights of the people circling around in those businesses? The lighting, you know, you've got the street lights, but the parking lots of these businesses have stronger, brighter lights, so that's impacting your personal space and your peace and quiet in your own yard. And although purchase of these businesses may increase the property value right along Ann Street, it's decreasing the property as residential, safe family residential property with Highland Park, so it's adding to the decimation of one of our oldest neighborhoods. So I don't know what can be done about that, but I think all of that should be considered before permission's given, and resolutions should be found to prevent those problems before permission's given to go from single-family residence, it's not even mixed, to residential when it's going to so harm all of those homes so close to these businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come forward and go?
I just have one quick thing. I'm not just representing myself. Mr. Rayon across the street said he's not interested in having more stuff there that's going to be food-wise. If it was a quiet businessy business, he would not object so much. Also, Tom and Kat Rodman, who live farther down the street, were not able to make it tonight. She teaches, and he's working at the theater late. By the way, you should probably consult him on some of the audio. He can probably hook you up with somebody, because I could not hear what most of you were saying when I was sitting in the audience. The microphone here picks up, and I could hear this person talking, but I could hardly hear any of you talking. And any other people I've just talked to walking down the street say they weren't able to make it, but they would appreciate knowing that I spoke for them.
Thank you, Jean. Okay, Guthrie, would you like to close this out, sir?
My clients want you to know that we'll make sure that all the regulations of the city and the ordinances are followed, and it's developed in an orderly manner to make things as safe and as desirable as possible for the use proposed. And I think it's time that this go business, and I hope you vote affirmatively.
One of the things I'd like to say to the members of the neighborhood, a lot of this goes back to the city's departments before approvals are given, and I would hope, Helen and Robert, that their concerns are expressed to the engineering department, traffic engineering, and so forth, because there may be a way within that structure to get some of their concerns addressed. Also, I would like to say for the record, Buddy, that you mentioned the right-in, right-out option, but on your drawing it doesn't show that, so I want to make sure that if we approve this, and we're not necessarily approving the drawing that showed on 14B.
I understand. That's
okay?
Yes.
Any other further questions from or issues from the audience? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve it.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 4 folks approving. All opposed to this motion, raise your hand. 1, 2. 2 opposers. Any abstentions?
Yeah, you know, it seems like some buffer areas and some traffic controlling and some better walkability and some dumpster control could be addressed, and I just wonder where that's going to be addressed, or if it's going to be addressed. Robert, I don't know if you can speak to that.
I think a lot of that would basically be addressed in the site development plan process with the departments that comment on those particular areas, whether it's the dumpsters, the right in, right out with traffic engineering, and so on and so forth.
I mean, I think it's a commercial area that's clear, and I think it should be developed as a commercial area. I don't think it should be developed at the sacrifice of the immediately adjacent property owners. I think it really should complement the immediately adjacent property owners, and I don't think that should all go on one developer's cost. I don't think it should add to the cost of the developer. I think it should be something that the cities, anytime you develop something like this, you're going to get more tax revenue, so maybe there should be some consideration there. And Helen, you might be I may be wading in where I shouldn't wade in.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jerome, we're going to give you the courtesy to continue your comments, but we do have a motion, and it's been properly seconded, so we're in the middle of a vote.
I abstain then.
So we have 4 in favor, 2 opposed, and 1 extension. Is that your vote,
Yes,
Jerome?
that's correct. I abstain.
You need 5 votes, Guthrie, for a motion to pass. I don't think you have 4. So your motion is not approved.
Okay.
So
Next
motion
item.
fails.
Motion fails, yes.
You ready for the next item?
All right.
Next item is presented by Jeff Code Engineers to rezone 5 lots located on the northwest corner of Ann Street and Plum Street from R60S to B3.
And I'm still Guthrie Jeffcoat, representing the property owners north of Plum Street, right next to this property we've just been talking about. Except instead of 3 lots, I've got 5 lots, 250 feet wide by 150 feet long, with negotiations underway for quick serve and for communications outlet. And no development plan is being worked on by somebody else in Mobile, not us, and they realize the seriousness of traffic, dumpsters, and those kind of things, and maybe if we can tabulate and give these items to them, they can be taken in before a development plan comes to you. But I still think that this is the most reasonable rezoning for this area and would ask your approval.
Okay, so Guthrie, we're probably in the same posture as we were on the previous vote.
Yeah.
Now, we'll be happy to continue at your request.
What are my options?
Well, at this point, I would say, first of all, knowing where we're probably going to end up on this, you may want to take this thing off the table, postpone it, and maybe see if there's something that you can work out with the neighborhood and all the factors that came out of the previous discussion.
I've got other representatives here, and
hold on just a second. I mean, it's up to you guys, but I'm just simply saying, and if you want your person to come up, have them come on. But it's up to you guys to strategically negotiate through this environment right now. And we're just putting that on the table as a consideration, but naturally we'll be happy to continue on with the process. Did you want to speak, sir?
Yes.
Your name, please?
Paul Burkett.
Okay, Paul.
I'm here for Michael Delaney, the owner as well, prospective owner. The proposal is a little different than the other proposal in that he has hired a plan coordinator who has considered the things that were discussed about the buffer, and the 5th lot was actually designed not to be a part of the development but to be a place where a buffer zone could go, as well as the walkability of the neighborhood, those kind of things. So he has considered that. We don't have a problem holistically discussing this and then bringing it again if necessary, but in lieu of a no vote. So.
Well, here again, I'm going to say the same thing to you as I said to Guthrie. We're at the same posture as we were at the previous vote.
Well,
and I don't know if anything's going to change or not, but if it is, well, let's proceed.
Yeah, Paul, let's talk about this because the other development did not have a buffer. and it looked like it was literally up against somebody's house. And I can't imagine the lights and everything else. So talk about your buffer and adding the extra lot and how you plan on making that part of your development that may satisfy the neighborhood and your use, if you have a use, so it's not nebulous what the use is going to be.
Well, I will say this. We discussed this with the developer, and we discussed it in light of the fact that he did not technically need this additional 50 by 150 area. He was willing to make an offer on it and proceed forward anyway for a buffer area, and is interested in doing what it takes to make the project work. And I mean, we've discussed the Q designation and the restrictions that go along with that. And the developer is he's an accredited land consultant and a CCIM, and he's I think he puts together well thought out projects and works with credit tenants and not with just every mom and pop along the street. So anyway, I just wanted you to know that as a part of this.
So what's your pleasure, Paul? Proceed?
If you would.
Very good. All right. Any other members of the commission have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a brief comment. You know, we tend to run into this somewhat less frequently, I think, than most of us would probably think when you start talking about these rezonings. But it sounds to me like, listening also to the neighborhood, it sounds to me like that what has happened is that we've covered this as best we can with zoning. The problem, it seems to me, is the actual application after the zoning. It's like the lady was talking about the lighting. Well, she said that it's right over on her property and it's being shown, yet we had in there the requirements that not happen. So it seems to me like there's an application problem more than there is the
enforcement problem.
Yeah, enforcement, exactly. Isn't that really one of the biggest problems? Ma'am?
I'm sorry.
The
lighting? It was initially a problem.
No. The lighting was just an example. Okay. I'm talking about an enforcement of
exactly.
what is in place. Isn't that
exactly?
Really
and it's not even necessarily the business itself that's violating it. They probably have to have them turn it down a little bit just to hear what they're ordering. But on this particular one, Mr. Rayon is not here. He's somewhat disabled and isn't able to get out. His house adjoins that property, and I have spoken with him on several occasions. He doesn't feel 50 foot's really that much of a buffer zone. He said he wouldn't mind an office-y thing or a cell phone store, let's call it what it is, because they're not serving food. The dumpster's not going to get emptied as often, but he and I both are opposed to having any more food outlets there for that very reason. I don't know how you get them to not empty the dumpster at 4:30 in the morning, but there's nothing that can block that out. I don't care how many trees and bushes you plant there or how thick of a concrete wall 90 foot high, I'm going to hear that dumpster being emptied at 4 o'clock in the morning.
So you're agreeing with my comments,
yes,
what you're doing.
I agree
This
with your comment.
It's
the enforcement, and
zone,
if
okay?
it's not there, you don't have to enforce it.
Thank you.
I have a comment about zoning versus enforcement. Once you have commercial in there and you've changed from residential to commercial, well, when you have residential, you have enforcement problems, and when you have commercial, you have enforcement problems. But when you have lack of enforcement, the problems multiply exponentially with commercial, and especially if commercial is adjacent to residential, because the enforcement is the lighting, the enforcement is the dumpster and the noises within a residential area, the enforcement is the traffic, the enforcement is the people who are driving cars with very loud music. All of that is increased tremendously with commercial. If it's a food outlet, or if it's a car supply store, or if it's anything where you have numerous customers coming in until 9 o'clock at night, you've got children walking without sidewalks or walking across Ann Street and trying to safely get home. You've still got families putting their babies to bed behind them, and 9 o'clock is, you know, kind of the noise time, but the babies go to bed before that. So even though it may be mostly an enforcement problem, the problem is so much worse when you allow certain types of commercial right adjacent to businesses. You know, part of it may be that maybe it shouldn't be rezoned until we know what the type of business is going to be and whether that business fits in specifically. And then I don't know if it's possible to limit it if it changes in the future. If you put an office building there that works well with the neighborhood and doesn't harm the neighborhood, then 10 years from now, can that person sell it to Hardee's without coming before here? I don't know about that, but I just know about right now.
They could not.
They could not.
Okay. So I think to approve, especially approve something right adjacent to a residential area before you even know what's going in there is just opening huge problems for that neighborhood.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further comments from the audience? Come forward, sir. Give us your name, please.
Yes, sir. I'm Ed Fleming. I'm a realtor that's handling the project. The developer out of Mobile has been very gracious. 2 of the 5 lots are actually dilapidated old houses. I've had to personally go and board them up to keep folks vagrants from coming in and out. We've had a lot of problems with that over there. The other 3 are low rental places. But I've talked to Mr. Rayon, who's the 6th house back. I sold that house to him 2 years ago. Nice brick home, retired Army major. And he said as long as we had a wood fence around and a buffer zone, he would be happy with that just to keep the vagrants from coming in and out and borrowing electricity, borrowing water from him, and all that kind of thing. So I think the development would help with those items on that part of the street. I do.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments?
Ed, this question is for Ed. Do you know who the tenants are?
Not specifically. He doesn't really want to share that with us. I know that he's talked about not AT&T, but somebody similar to that. And then he does a lot of just regular strip centers that have just a lot of little 1,500 square foot shops in there. He really hadn't got down to that, but he's committed to doing whatever.
Is there a restaurant in his plan?
He's got an option on a restaurant if they want to, but he doesn't have it signed up yet. No, sir.
Would he be able to do his development if a restaurant were restricted on that lot?
He could, but that would restrict his ability to do his development. If he had one,
if he's got a buffer and he doesn't have a restaurant use, it seems like that would go a long way to satisfying the neighborhood.
Yes, sir. Well, I couldn't tell you for his part whether he would, because he might have somebody, a real nice, somebody that we don't even have in Montgomery that might be coming to town and want to open 4 or 5, and that's what happened to us last time. I had 4 or 5 of these set up around town with a company that wasn't here, and then we couldn't get this to go. So it could be some other company, some other restaurant chain coming in. But it'll make it a whole lot nicer than what it is now, I guarantee you. And we had even thought at one time about asking the city to do a cul-de-sac at the end of the road and kind of block it off, but I know that's not going to work. But I think this would work good the way we have it laid out, if y'all don't mind.
You only have 3 people from the neighborhood here that have come to complain. Have y'all reached out to them prior to the meeting?
Yes, sir. I've actually gone through the city council, talked to all the guys there. I talked to Tracy Larkin about it. He informed me that they did not have a neighborhood committee because I was going to go see the neighborhood association. I've talked to Miss Jean several times because I had both sides of the road listed at one time and tried to do the development. So I know her concerns, and her thing is if they would have come in and if they'd have come in and developed hers all the way back to her lot, she'd probably be happy with the situation if they bought her house out. So that's kind of the situation we're in. They didn't go quite as far back as we did. So that's the thing.
Okay, any further comments, questions?
I'd just like to make this comment that
Sure.
I voted no on the previous one. And the problem is exactly what Buddy said, is that we didn't do a very good job, and there's no way that we can enforce this. But we did have the neighborhood association here when I was on the planning commission last time. And we tried what we thought were the appropriate steps to take to make sure that the neighborhood would not be affected adversely. And as she says, that's exactly what happened, and part of it is enforcement with the city. And I would probably vote for this one if there were no fast food restaurant there. It's just going to be difficult for me to vote yes after we've had this experience already right there on Ann Street, and no guarantee there's not going to be a fast food restaurant in this one. And that's my problem. I mean, I'll be honest with you. You ride down Ann Street, and I do a good bit. That's a problem right there, and it is, and it's a neighborhood problem that's not going away. And it would be helpful if we didn't have that many fast food restaurants right there that disturb the neighborhood.
Yes.
And we tried to do it last time. We tried to vote appropriately last time. And I can't remember how I voted last time, but it's a real problem when you put that many right there. This is a neighborhood. This is not East Boulevard or South Boulevard or whatever. And so I think I've had my say.
Yes, sir, but
thank you, Frank.
You have other restaurants already there. Whatever comes there is going to be better than what we have now, I think. And I would certainly pass it on to him about not having the restaurant if he could work with it. But I can't tell you that he would or he wouldn't. No, sir.
Yeah, Ed, you just told us you didn't know what was coming. So
yes, sir.
Let's stay with that for now.
Yes, sir.
Paul?
I would just go ahead and move that we table it for tonight, and that we will work on addressing these issues until the next meeting.
So be it. But Paul, you know, when I asked you that, we just spent 15 minutes deliberating something we could have moved on. But that's okay.
We're going to do our best to get to the bottom of these issues, though.
I understand that, but we told you we were in the same posture we were at the previous one, so we could have been on down the road. But
I
that's
salute
okay.
you. I think that's a good idea.
Very good.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Next item is presented by Jeff Code Engineers. Request final approval of DPG Shopping Center Plat Number 1, located on the northwest corner of Ann Street and Plum Street. These are the lots that would be representing the rezoning.
Yeah, we can't.
We want to delay it?
Yes.
Well, Gunther, you understand what's going on, right?
Oh,
Since
yeah.
the previous part
I understand.
decisions was made, then there's no point in going through these.
Okay. Well, the plat will be delayed also.
Well, that's what I
Okay.
want to get in the record, that the plats would be delayed due to the previous previous action of the two lots.
All right,
Okay,
the next
okay.
item is presented by Jeff Code Engineers. Request final approval of Vasilius Plat Number 1, located on the northeast corner of Madison Avenue and North Union Street in a T40.
You have approved this plat previously, and the parking lot on the back was left off, and this is back to you in the same fashion as the old China Bowl restaurant lot with the, now we've added the parking lot on the back to make it complete.
Okay? Any questions or comments from the commission? Any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is made and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
1 for 4, that ain't too good.
But at least you know, hey, Guthrie, now you know the answers to the question, though.
Next item is presented by the Department of Planning for the South Montgomery Plan.
Hey, Robert.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Doing good.
Before you get started, I want to just say something to you.
Okay.
You weren't here when we started, or when we got started to get together. Some of us feel that we're not familiar enough with this item at this point in time to continue.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, this is not the last item on the agenda. Are you?
That's your South Montgomery?
Were you talking about the text amendment?
Yeah, the text amendment.
This is not the text amendment.
Oh, this is item 18.
Okay.
South Montgomery District 6 Plan.
I'm sorry. I'm one ahead of you. I'm very sorry. I
That's
apologize.
okay. That's okay. That is okay. So we're good to go?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I'm Robert Smith. I'm Director of Planning here at the City of Montgomery. And what we have before you tonight is the, I think you all were sent in advance a copy of the South Montgomery District 6 Plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. This has basically been probably about a almost 3-year process of getting this plan updated. This particularly is for City Council District 6. So that boundary that you see is representative of City Council District 6. Basically, it is a comprehensive plan for that particular district that looks basically to improve that particular area over the course of about 20 years. We have had engagement with everybody from residents, neighborhood associations, businesses, and many others throughout the process, from when the city actually started the update process for this particular planning process, as well as the engagement of a consultant to assist us in completing that process. And this was at the request of a couple of residents in that particular district. So I'm going to step to the side and I'm going to introduce our paid consultant with KPS Group, Mr. Jason Fondren, who's going to go through the plan process. I will say this, that we have been answering comments from one individual all pretty much most of the day yesterday, and also responses to that individual today. And they were questions and clarifications that we've gotten. And the last set of comments that I got from him basically were about some grammatical errors and things of that nature, which we will actually clean up as a part of the actual final document itself. So I'll turn it over to Jason.
Robert, but before you go, this is a technical item.
Yes.
The information I got says a draft.
That's correct.
So if this is approved tonight, we're approving the draft or the final?
You would be basically approving the final document.
Okay.
And we will go and make whatever necessary edits that need to be made from a grammatical standpoint and finalize this document. And this will be it for District 6.
So nothing's changed between the draft and the final?
Correct.
Okay.
Robert, just a personal moment of controversy, I guess, okay?
Sure.
You know, we do these, and I think they're wonderful, they're great, but most of them wind up on the shelf, okay? And, I think people that will come in here, not so much tonight because we don't have that many people, but there are some people that really sincerely went to the charrettes and had input and all
Sure.
that. And I think it's wonderful. I mean, I really do. I think, I don't mean to sound negative about it, but at the end of the day, it's kind of frustrating for people to come in here believing that all this is going to be done, because it's not. It's a grouping of ideas that may or may not ever occur. And that's the way it happens in all of these. And I'm making that comment just before we have discussions so that somebody doesn't think, well, when I look at this is the, yeah, this is the commitment of the city. It's a plan. It's
a guide.
It's a hope.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And also it is a 20-year document. So everything in it's not going to be done in 1 year or 5 years. Not worried about 20 years.
I'm not worried about it.
Well, believe me, somebody is at some point in time.
I'm still worried about it, Robert, in 20 years. I want it to look good.
Absolutely. And we all have kids, and there are other generations that will that will basically benefit from it. And I mean, I will say this, we have many plans. We're constantly working all those plans, whether it's the downtown plan. I mean, many of you probably remember when that one was adopted, and this has been probably 10 years ago, and look at the change that has occurred, you know, here in downtown and many other places. And so it does take time to work the plans, implement the plans, and
modify.
And they are living, you know, documents. They can and will be modified from time to time if a change needs to occur. So I absolutely hear you there, and but I don't 100% agree with you on that. But you know, we do work very hard to try to get these plans actually implemented. You know, based on what we say that we want to try to do to improve those districts, even though money may not necessarily, you know, be available. But, you know, we have a saying, the mayor has a saying that we don't let money get in the way of the vision, but it may get in the way of the timing, but we don't let it get in the way of the vision. So we have to set the vision, set an expectation, and hope and keep people to those high expectations. We basically use these plans to basically guide development decisions. So if there's something inconsistent with what the plan says, then we basically go with that plan and try to stick with it and not have anything that trumps the plan to come in ahead of it. So even though it does take time.
Well, let us hear what the fancy consultants got to say about it.
Yes, sir.
I need to go on record. I need to get a car. I did not get this.
You did not?
You know, my mailman decided they wanted to keep it for their own reading, which they sometimes do.
Absolutely.
But I did not get it.
You did not get it.
No.
Okay.
And this is my neighborhood.
Yeah, and I don't have to vote because I'm not on that document either. It's a different planning commission member, I think.
I am so sorry you didn't get a plan, but yeah, Tanya did say that she mailed it to all of the planning commission members. So
They have, but the mailman didn't give it to me.
gotcha. Well, Jason's going to go through the presentation, which is basically a summary of the actual plan document itself.
Welcome, Jason.
Thank you.
And tell us who you are and who you're with and how you got to be such a smart guy at all of this.
Well, that's going to be a short story because I'm not claiming to be such a smart guy. My name is Jason Fondren, principal planner with KPS Group. We're an architecture and planning firm in Birmingham, Alabama. The reason I am here assisting the city in this process is in part because I was contacted by a resident of South Montgomery after the city, Robert's staff had initiated the process, and there were some concerns from that resident about the product that the staff had put together and whether or not that represented the feelings of the community properly. So knowing Robert, I got in touch with him and talked about it, and he agreed to open up the process again so that we could have a few additional meetings. I think that you started the process around 2013 or 14. So we reopened the planning process that the staff had begun back in 2013, and looked through the plan that the staff had put together, went through a number of meetings with the community to talk about their vision, to understand if what had been captured then, was there anything substantially different that needed to be understood and captured in updating the plan draft in order to bring it to you, and to identify some priorities, to prepare one element that was not previously addressed in the South Montgomery plan was a future land use plan, which would help in cases such as you heard tonight with respect to Ann Street and whether or not a particular piece of property should go from residential to commercial. That type of policy had not been considered in the previous process. In this process, we did go through and establish a future land use plan to use as a guide for the city in making decisions in the instance of requests for rezoning. So it establishes policy, not just a wish list. And that's an important thing to mention. But let me go ahead and quickly walk through the content of the plan with you.
Before you go, you just said something I got to stop you on. What you're telling me is you guys established policy related to the land use in this document?
The plan proposes, until it is adopted, it's not
adopted
established.
By whom?
What's that?
Adopted by whom?
By your commission.
I don't want to derail this, Robert, but how does this work in terms of the overall rezoning or the zoning study that's being pursued, I'll say, at some point? Because I don't want to set a precedence here, and then you've got this other study that's coming along.
Sure. Plans are basically approved by the Planning Commission.
Well, see, anybody tell me that I got to approve a land use plan embodied in a South Montgomery neighborhood plan? I think that's kind of, if you're telling me that if I approve this or I vote yes for this tonight, I'm approving some land use component, I think you're taking a hell of a risk.
Future, yes, a future land use plan.
I don't know anything about it. You've got some, where is the land use plan in here? And it's, I don't like this because
he's going to get to that part in the presentation.
You can't. At least I'm speaking for Kippy Tate.
Okay.
I'm not speaking for Frank Cook and Patrick Moss. A land use plan that you're proposing in this thing, you can't explain that to me tonight. We don't have enough time. I'm just telling you. I don't like how this is being proposed because you really have an embedded component of another issue that's, I'll say, disguised, if you will.
Well, I mean,
in the
not quite disguised, but it's typical of any plan.
Well, I feel like I'm being deceived. I feel like I'm being deceived because this says South Montgomery Community Plan, then it says draft, and now we've got a land use piece of this that requires more than what you can explain to us tonight to get some idea of what this means.
Well, sir, that's exactly the reason that Mr. Fondren is here to explain to you what's in the plan.
Hold on. Y'all have been doing this since 2013.
Correct.
And you expect us to vote on it when he's going to give us a 30-minute presentation, and you've been working on this for 4 years.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But at the same time, at the very end, if you don't feel comfortable voting on it tonight and you feel like you need more time, you can absolutely take more time.
I'm going to request that we table this until we get some idea and the necessary information to make a land use decision embodied in this document. If I'm outside of where you guys are thinking, please speak up, but I certainly don't think that the gravity of what's embodied in here is something that this nice gentleman from Birmingham can explain to us tonight.
Sure he can.
Without some further discussion about it and understanding.
Is this the same procedure that we did on City of Montgomery downtown and also
yes,
Fairview?
Correct.
Whatever?
Yes, sir.
This is exactly the same.
It is the same
plan.
It is a
Did those
typical plan.
include what we call land use plans in those?
Yes.
On West Fairview that we had to
I mean,
rescind?
downtown, you basically committed to changing it from.
I understand that. I understand the downtown. I'm talking about the West Fairview.
Same with West Fairview. Same with Maxwell Boulevard. Same with Oak Park and Centennial Hill.
Okay.
Correct.
And did anybody ever have like a work session beforehand so that?
No, sir. It was the same type of presentation us presenting to the Planning Commission. Correct.
Okay.
Well, that all may be true of what you say before now, but
it is true, Mr. Commissioner Tate.
This is now. This is today. This is
I understand.
Now. And if I voted for it in the past, maybe I didn't understand what I was voting on because I certainly didn't know that I had a land use plan embodied in a neighborhood community draft that had these kind of components embodied in them. I didn't understand that. And maybe it's my fault, but now I'm in a different place.
Sure.
And I don't, no, go right ahead, sir.
We have, I know, had the land use in there, and I think the example of Fairview is I guess what I was referencing in my
oh, sure.
talk earlier, because we had some situations out there that because of that document, we disallowed some things that literally should have been, in my opinion, allowed, and for good reasons. And it was 2.5 years later where we finally came to our senses and started making the changes, but that document prevented O'Reilly's from going on.
And many other.
And I think that's kind of what you're saying, the after effect. And Jerome, I like what you said, and maybe Robert, it really would be. I know from your standpoint, you're saying, well, I don't. These guys are volunteers, and we're not trying to use their time up, and we're trying to get it as simple as But I would have enjoyed a little understanding, and maybe that's what we're doing now.
That's exactly what we're doing now. That is exactly what we're doing now, and I think it would be to your advantage to listen to what Mr. Fondren has to say, and if you want to delay it until the next meeting, that is perfectly fine and okay. But
well, see, this is starting to generate so many questions in my mind now that we'll be here for a while.
Robert, on a 20-year plan, I know that it's just a framework. I know
Sure.
that it's still going to come back for 30 years and 40 years, this plan that's set now. But to go over it briefly in a public setting like this where we never have time to really ask some hard questions and really say we're going to meet on this and discuss it before it's made, it's firm. I just think that there ought to be a better way to do it than wait till you've already seen 15 people that are angry about this and that and try to present it and say, hey, yeah, we're going to vote on this for a 20-year plan. I know that it's just a framework, but we can sit here and listen to it, and I'd probably vote on it, but I tell you, it does seem like it should be done a little bit differently.
Well, I agree with you, Jerome, and I just found what's called the future land use. And this is what I found in my packet, and I don't understand this at all. Is this what you're trying to tell me that's going to govern the land use that's embodied in this that we vote on? If y'all find the land use plan in there it is. Do you understand that, Frank?
I mean, it basically will be a guide for future land use decisions.
But that's not how you do this, in my opinion. And I would prefer to have a little bit more understanding of what I'm talking about or what I'm listening to. But I don't want to cut your consultants or be disrespectful to your efforts, and we'll listen. But I just know that whatever this body decides it wants to do, but I think we need some more information about how this is going to be effective as a guide. Because as Buddy said, we went down this road with West Fairview, and 2.5 years, 3 years later, we actually retracted all of that.
Sure.
And I think it was because we probably didn't ask enough questions, didn't know what questions to ask, because we had 8.5 by 11s with very small scale stuff.
Robert, can we get a meeting that's before this hour, not on the same day as this hour, where we can sit down and go through this presentation and have plenty of time? We can ask a bunch of questions. We can feel comfortable with it before we vote on it for 20 years.
We can. We can do that before the next meeting.
Let's not do it the same day. None of us are paid to do it, so let's do it at a different time before the next meeting.
All right.
Well, I mean,
we'll do that. We'll try to coordinate schedules with everybody.
Well, I hear you, Jerome, but I hadn't heard from everybody up here. So if everybody's in favor of this, make a motion and let's move on.
I agree with it. Go ahead.
I make a motion that we have a meeting prior to the next scheduled meeting that's convenient for everybody, that we have at least an hour to go over this plan with the consultant.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? That's what we need to do, Robert.
Yes, sir. Very good.
Look at this another way.
We'll do that. We'll coordinate you all schedules and
Tanya does
set
a
up a
good
meeting.
job of getting the message out and that sort of thing, so we'll rely on some communications from her.
Okay.
No disrespect to you, sir.
And sorry for your trip from Birmingham today and sit through this.
Maybe stop by Winslow's and spend some money in Montgomery, you know. So, before you go back. Go ahead.
You gotta go to the next item.
Yeah, we're going to the next item. I do, ma'am, did you understand what just happened? Ma'am? You gotta come up here. I just want to make sure you're clear, because obviously you came down there for a reason. And we're gonna move on to the next item.
Good afternoon. My name is Wendy Smith. I'm in District 6. I'm a president of the Neighborhood Association of Ellsmead. I just started it.
Okay.
And I want to get an understanding about the plan, because like when they just had, I just want to be in our neighborhood that we just had common ground coming in our neighborhood. We wasn't noticed about it until the day it happened. And I don't want nothing just coming out resident and I don't know anything about it. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
That's my concern. I was against that common ground coming in our neighborhood. It was approved, it was commercial, it was rezoned.
Right.
In our neighborhood. And I opposed it because I wasn't.
So let me
I
just
was
jump in
against
here
it.
and tell you what just happened. The plan that they were talking about, that you may or may not know about, we're asking them to present it to us, and I would imagine this would be a public meeting, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a public meeting when they presented it to us.
We'll have to advertise it if all the planning
that's what I'm
over 5
saying.
members are there. It'll be a public meeting.
Yeah, this will be a public meeting when they present this plan in more detail, a little bit more time than we have down here, and I would suspect that the public would be more than happy to come. So what I'm saying to you, what you don't understand about it now, there's going to be another meeting that's going to expound upon what this plan is involved with. Okay? And it's going to be a public hearing, a public meeting, and the city's got to advertise it and so forth. So I guess what you got to do is kind of keep your ears and eyes open for that notice.
The real sentiment is we didn't have time to go through this in the depth that it needs to be gone through tonight.
And no action's being taken.
Yeah,
So
and so we're not taking it.
nothing happened tonight.
Okay.
All right, but
I
keep your
just-
ears open and eyes open.
don't
for the
worry.
notice.
My association will. Like I said, this all of a sudden happened and we didn't know anything about it.
Yes,
As
we
me being a
understand.
homeowner in the back of where the golf club was, that's in the back of my home.
I understand.
And I don't want anything to come up there like that again in our neighborhood.
Yeah, we understand you, ma'am, and that's why you'll get a full understanding when
Okay.
we meet, okay?
If you could leave your name and number with us.
Yeah, I think she's talking about a
I do know
rezoning.
what she's talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
Another item that was before.
In the back of my house, in my neighborhood, rezoned. And I didn't know if the day it happened was, the day it happened, we didn't know anything about it. Because
Talk right here.
we didn't know anything about it until the day, the next meeting, because it was like clear. The first time we didn't know anything, and then the second time I got a letter.
So listen to me real quick.
Okay.
If you'll give your name and number to one of the ladies over here, they'll make sure you absolutely know about the meeting that we've just been talking about.
Okay.
Okay? So there shouldn't be any problem in terms of communication. So now, Robert, we move to the next item, number 19.
We were requesting a text amendment to Article 7, Section 3, to change some verbiage on
Right, and I just
travel trailers.
wanted Helen to jump in here and let Robert know that we have the same concern about number 19 as we did with number 18. And it needs to be a little bit more discussion about the reason and the rationale behind that change.
We only have a couple of changes in the text amendment. Would you like us to work up some verbiage and send it to you and then let you call us with your questions, or how do you want to handle it?
Guys, what's your pleasure?
Why don't we do the same thing with it?
Right.
As we're doing with this? I mean,
Right.
that's what I think the question was.
In other words, she's trying to figure out how do they communicate the issues to us, and
We're in the process of, every time we flip a page, we find a small error
Right.
that people have told us the interpretation of the ordinance. It was changed for the last 20 years, but nobody
Right.
ever corrected it, and we're trying to get the small things corrected.
I understand.
So,
And that's sometimes, Helen, that's where the details are. I mean, the
Right.
devils are in the details. and we vote on it, and then all of a sudden somebody stands up here and has a heartburn. So
Right.
we'd like a little bit more information about that, so if you'll notify
I
us.
tell you what, we'll just work up something, send it out. When y'all have any questions, call us. And if it didn't work, we'll get more detail,
Thank you
because
very
it's not
much.
a hurry.
Very much, so we'll table number 19 as well.
Okay?
Is there any other business to come before the commission tonight? Seeing none, hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.